I am super excited to say that the only reason I am able to even come out with this episode is the sponsor of today's episode. So, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it is one of the greatest things to use to make a podcast. First, it's free. Second, they have all these tools that you can use to record, edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. I do it from my phone because it's much easier. I literally just bought one of those mics from the Apple store, plug it in, and now I just talk and it's great. Also, you can distribute the podcast wherever you want. Anchor does that for you. It can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I think Stitcher, so many other places. And you can make money from the podcast. And yeah, you can start it right away with an advertisement like this. So make sure you download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It is everything you need to make podcasts in one place. If you hear this disclaimer before the episode, it's because it was set to release a while ago. There were a lot of things that held me back, but I'm glad to be back on the right track now and producing content, hopefully at a very consistent weekly basis. So make sure you're tuning in every Wednesday to hear whatever episode of The Forensics Experience comes out. What's up, y'all? It's Dante, aka The Forensics Guy, and you are listening to The Forensics Experience, the podcast where we discuss topics in the speech and debate community with the world's most influential coaches, students, and alumni in the activity. Today, I am floored because I am honored to be sitting here with Carrie Baker Jackson, one of the best coaches in the game. I feel like I don't even need to introduce you, but maybe for the two people who are listening that don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for the community?
So hi, Dante. I coach at Ronald Reagan High School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I've coached there for about 14 years. I've been coaching for about 20 years.
Wow.
I am the head coach there. In addition, I am the Milwaukee Archdiocese director for the National Catholic Forensics League. We just hosted nationals last May, which was an awesome experience to bring what I like to say 5,000 of my closest friends to the city of Milwaukee and show them Milwaukee and see some really amazing performances. And then I also sit on the NSDA Southern Wisconsin Committee.
Awesome. Yes, for those who don't know, I was obviously at the CFL tournament this year as well. And it was really great. It was amazing. So thank you so much for hosting that with the other coaches and making that a really wonderful experience. For those who know, I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so I'm glad I'm home and have a tournament hosted for me back home, and it really felt like home. It was awesome. So
I remember you as a competitor.
It's so funny because I have that on my list of things I was going to mention. I totally was going to talk about that. That's so amazing. It's so crazy. Like, I can't wait for that day. Like that day where I start seeing, students that I've like coached become coaches too. It's so surreal.
I was good friends with your coach, and I was.
Did you?
It was funny.
Did you coach middle school too?
I didn't coach at MSL, but I knew your coach.
Okay.
You were at MSL, right?
Yes, I was at MSL with Miss Fritchie, and I think she's still Miss Statler now. Yeah.
Yes. I call her Valerie, but yes.
Yes, she is one of the legends in my mind. She's just amazing, and my first coach in 8th grade got me into speech and debate, aka forensics, whichever one you want to call it. And without Valerie, basically just saying like, hey, you need to continue to keep your grades up, stuff like that, I don't think I would have been able to compete in it. So it was such an amazing opportunity to be under some really great tutelage of coaching. It was really awesome. Uh, love you, Valerie. Hope you're listening. So this is really great because I want to talk a little bit today for everyone listening, a little bit about trying to figure out how we can help the students that I personally believe who need it the most. Um, Obviously, speech and debate is doing an amazing job as a community. I would say we are growing extensively. Like, I mean, I've seen speech and debate coaching positions in places as far as like Morocco and South Korea and China, and it's just like we are growing as a community. I'm absolutely loving it. But coming back to the U.S. For this specific topic, I want to look at how we can try to get more students who are inner city students able to compete. I think that unfortunately there are usually a lot of barriers in stopping them from doing speech and debate. Sometimes finances and like scheduling and so many other things. And as a student who coaches as a coach that coaches students in the inner city, I know that you know, and I know as well, how you have to, moderate and change so many different things in order to make sure that every single child does have the opportunity to participate if they really want to. And I really want to talk a little bit more about how we can make that happen. And in all of your experience, wow, 20 years of experience is so amazing. For your first 6 years before, because you said you were Ronald Reagan for 14 years, where were you at before?
So my first 3 years coaching, I was working on getting my teaching certification,
Okay.
and I was coaching at Divine Savior Holy Angels,
Okay.
so girls Catholic high school here in Milwaukee.
Yes.
And then once I started working for Milwaukee Public Schools, and I worked at a public charter school for 3 years that has since closed. And then I moved over from W.E.B. Du Bois to Reagan. So I started at a all-girls private Catholic school, and then I switched to Milwaukee Public Schools and a more urban and co-ed setting,
Yes.
which was different.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, DSHA is a all girls school too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year I was at an all girls school, and I was at Immaculate Heart in Los Angeles, and
Okay.
they're great kids, but a much different experience, And
Yes.
now I am at KIP schools in the Bay Area and San Francisco area, and
Okay.
it's awesome working with some middle schoolers, and we got a lot of great plans, and we're doing some great things.
Well, I'm so glad you're working with the middle school, because as a high school teacher, I am exceptionally fortunate that Milwaukee Public Schools has phenomenal middle school forensics programs. And so
we really do. It's
yes.
I brag about it all the time because like everybody gets so excited when I tell them about it. Like from literally, I don't know if you've been to any middle school tournaments, but like I mean, like people always freak out when I tell them how every single middle school tournament literally involves a dance. Like there's some type of DJ, pizza.
Yes.
It's just fun.
And my freshmen like cry when I say there is no dance. What do you mean there's no dance? There is no dance. I expect that if you are not fortunate enough to break to power round, either support a teammate or you are going to go to the power round in your category and see what are the people who are having success doing, and how can I change and make modifications to my performance.
Yeah.
But yes, the amount of kids who just are shocked that we don't have a dance in high school is quite humorous.
It's so great. We definitely need a hashtag bring back the dance. I think it will make the high school tournaments more fun too.
I don't want to dance. No, I can't. I judged
Go
maybe
ahead.
10 middle school tournaments.
Uh-huh.
back in the day, and I thought, this is insane. Why would you do this? Yeah, no.
It's yeah. I mean, it's different, but it's I don't like it's perfect because most of those tournaments, for those who don't know, listening, in Wisconsin, our middle school tournaments, a lot of them fall on Friday nights, and it's literally like after school, you and your team buses to the school, you have your rounds, and then there's literally just like it feels like almost unlimited soda and pizza while you're dancing to all the latest hits from 2009 and up, and it's just a crazy experience. It's ridiculous, but it's amazing, and I do like that. Even like so far, like CFL usually has a dance at nationals, NSDA has a dance at nationals. Kind of, it's not the same concept, but it kind of feels very similar. I like it. It's
You're
yeah.
right. The hosting party, a similar feel to the middle school dance.
Yeah, and yeah, I definitely, yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun, just like being there and just really being in that experience. And I can definitely say that from that realm, not just with the dance, but in general, I was very privileged to have a state that was so prominent on the middle school range. I mean, the amount of students, I think it was a couple years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I think we topped out at like 3,200 kids, and that was only taking the ones who qualified for state. That's like everybody I tell it to is just like, whoa, that's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, our middle school league is actually, it feels very competitive. It's very awesome, and it just brings out some of the greatest creativity among students. It's really great.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, our district doesn't offer a ton of extracurriculars for middle schools. They've got, I think, one sport a season, and then the forensic season, which in Wisconsin runs from middle of January through the end of March, middle of
Yeah,
April.
pretty much.
Uh, the middle school one's a little bit shorter. The high school one's about a month longer. Um, and I I'm very fortunate, and I have to do very little recruiting for my high school team because every freshman that comes through the door says I competed for 1 to 3 years in middle school.
Yeah.
Um, so it's great. It's awesome.
I'm yeah, I think that's really awesome. I'm pretty lucky too for I also coach at a high school. Shout out to Monte Vista. Like I didn't mention you all yet because we're specifically talking about inner city schools. But I you coach at a high school too, and a lot of those middle schoolers that I have come in, they have that middle school experience actually, which is impressive because they just have that whole program ran out pretty nicely. Out here, I feel like a lot more younger students, specifically in California, are really getting into speech and debate, and it's really awesome to see, like from elementary students and everything. It's very impressive. I'm loving it a lot. The younger we can get them excited about the activity, the better speech and debate students will have in the future. So that'd be really awesome.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, speaking of kind of, I guess, getting those students young and the general commitment to the children, I think it's evident that we need to figure out, I think, more creative ways to promote students to do speech and debate, not just individually at a school, but I really want to see. I think all the leagues are doing a really great job, but definitely if there's even more of an opportunity to like get more just schools participating in speech and debate and forensics, I want to see that. Do you have any like suggestions? What do you think would be a really great way to get more of these students competing in speech and debate?
So it's always one of those things where asking someone to give up every one of their Saturdays, their personal free time Saturdays for several months in a row, that takes a certain commitment and a certain person to do that.
Yes.
And so you have to find those people who really understand the value of the 21st century skill that, as an educator, we keep hearing that one of the newest taglines is making sure students have the soft skills and the 21st century skills. And those are all the skills that students are gaining and building
True.
Through speech and debate. And for me, what I see even, I don't want to say more importantly, but the empathy that students develop when they focus on interp categories, the empathy that they can have for others when they are spending probably more time researching pieces than they are doing their homework, which I don't approve of.
Yeah.
But, I watch how they will spend a year, or 6 months, at half a school year, working on a piece, and the empathy for the character or the characters in that piece that they develop just branches out into all aspects of their life. And high school is getting harder and harder and harder
It is.
to manage through with social media and that come with that. And that we can instill in our young people, I think, is just going to make our world a better place long term.
I really agree with that, and I really like what you said, just about how, like, I feel like high school it's really getting harder and harder. There's so much more to navigate. There's so much, specifically another episode that should have come out probably a couple episodes before this one. I remember talking about, just like mental health and speech and debate, and how it does take a lot. But I think that when we're looking at trying to making that commitment to the children, I really think it's evident that a lot of us as coaches, we have to figure out, like, I think we have to offer this opportunity, like this activity, as not as something that everybody literally can do. And I think that it's really interesting because the first example that pops in my head is, I remember a student who she was really excited about forensics and loved it. She thought it would be a really great thing, but she could never make the practices ever. Like, she had dance classes and all this other stuff, which is, like we said, so many other things on their plate. And I was able to, make like bi-weekly or monthly meetings with her at a separate time where she could come in, and like her parent was there, and we all just kind of worked together and tried to get her piece ready for competition. And she still did amazing. She made it to state that year. She did really good. Even made it to a power round, which is just awesome. And I love it.
Our season is weird in Wisconsin because with winter and spring sports.
Yes.
And so I get a fair amount of kids who start on the team in January. And then when mid-March comes, which is when we are gearing up for our national qualifiers and our state tournament, they're all of a sudden telling me, I have soccer practice every day. I have track practice every day. So what I will usually do is schedule 2 or 3 mornings a week. Come in 45 minutes before the school day, which gets a little early. But usually by that point in the season, they're willing to make that commitment to, yep, I will be in your room by 6:50 in the morning so I can rehearse and so I can still go to soccer practice after school.
I love that idea. I would encourage even more coaches to potentially do that, if that is something that, is within your schedule for coaches listening, trying to make more time potentially for your students to practice as much as they can. I really like that. Another idea from...
I know that...
Go ahead. Sorry.
I know that this year I'm actually working with a new coach at your former high school, MSL.
Okay.
And they've had a middle school program for the last several years, but the high school program stopped for a couple years.
Yeah.
And so now they have these middle school kids who are in who are now in 9th and 10th grade, and they want to continue with forensics. And, one of the things I said is next year, have to go to every single tournament the whole season long, choose to get acclimated and get your feet wet. And, Wisconsin's one of these quirky states where we have 20 categories in our state that kids can compete in, which on one hand, it's awesome because we have a category that literally will probably fit every single kid known to man. We can always find, but on the other hand, if you're a brand new coach, to wrap your head around the rules and the nuances and the idea behind 20 different categories is super overwhelming.
True.
So, it's what is good for the students isn't necessarily always good for the adult. And, you want to find that balance to not scare off the brand new coach who is going to, after a year, say, whoa, this is too much. I can't do that. But yet still give the students as many opportunities as possible.
Definite. I definitely agree with that. I know that even at the middle school level in Wisconsin, it's kind of like an unwritten rule. I'm still not 100% sure how that works, but basically most coaches only go to like 5 tournaments throughout the entire season. I think it's like that's how many the kids can go to or something like that. It's a little weird.
I think it's my understanding that is limited because there are so many kids who compete.
Exactly.
And they don't have the number of tournaments available. So they limit. Each student can compete 5 times before state, is my understanding.
That's it. Each student can compete 5 times. I guess as a coach, technically, if you had a bunch of students, you can go to every week. But I always pretty much just went with my same group, and they always came to each tournament. So we, as a whole season, just went to 5 tournaments. It was a little bit easier for us. But with that, like, I'm always looking at what a student wants to do with the activity as a whole, and I try to sit down and have that conversation with them. There are going to be students who I've had students who are like, I want to go to every tournament. I want to be the best. If I don't get first in the state, I'm going to cry. It's going to be a sad day. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to try my best. We're going to get you there. And then there are some students that's like, hey, can I just like go to one tournament and just like see how it is? And that might be it. I don't know.
Correct.
And I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's do it. I just want you to have some better public speaking skills. Even one tournament is enough. Or, I mean, it's enough sounds like a weird word, but even one tournament like satisfies that opportunity to at least do the activity.
Well, and you see what it's about. And I always tell my students, I do not care if you come home with hardware. I know that you all care about coming home with hardware, and I think it's awesome when you do come home with hardware. But at the end of the day, when we are riding the bus home, I want to be able to ask you, did you learn something today? And I want you to say yes. And if you learned something valuable, that's what I want to see as a coach.
Yeah, very true. I always say I feel like I've said this way too many times on the podcast and haven't even had that many episodes, but literally I remind kids like those gold-plated trophies on your shelf will not mean that much in 60 years. Like there's going to be a point where it's about the memories, the things that you learn, the opportunities to connect, that really funny thing that happened on the school bus when you're coming back from a tournament, stuff like that. It's going to be it's just going to be those moments of you loving this activity so much, not like seeing the trophy and being like, oh yeah, I remember I won that day. Like it's going to be the memories. And I really think that should try to drive home a little bit better if possible.
Yeah, that's always, I know that they always are disappointed. But I always want them to feel that if they learned something, it was a good day.
Yes, very true. I love that. I think it's a great point. And I'm for now at least, I'm gonna talk to the audience really quick and let them know. I hope you've been enjoying the episode so far. We're gonna take a quick break actually, so we can hear a word from our sponsors. Stay tuned. If you want to join in on the conversation, obviously feel free to leave a comment down below or DM me on Instagram or my TikTok at the Forensics Guy. And stay tuned because we'll be right back. All right, we are back. Have been very honored to have some very great conversations with Miss Carrie Baker Jackson. Sorry, Miss Carrie Baker Jackson.
That's
We have been talking about just literally figuring out how to like navigate this entire speech and debate world for students, how to make it more accessible to students, as well as how to give each student exactly what they want out of the activity. There's always going to be students who want a lot more and students who might want a lot less. And as long as we can do our best to navigate that, then we can definitely find and make a space that every student will feel comfortable and excited to compete in. Um, and moving on, I think that we need obviously, I think that we need more students to do the activity at different schools, but I feel like the one thing that's probably even the most important is we need more coaches to coach. I think that there are I can promise you 100% right now that there are more programs that need a coach than we all think. And I think that we need to move on to that and get those students that want to compete, give them a coach. And how can we get them a coach? I'm not 100% sure, but I think that this is a question that I want to figure out. There's so many things that I think, and I've had this conversation with other people that have been on my podcast. We've talked about, how do we get more coaches, especially when we're in this world where like the idea of forensics coaching isn't that important to us as a whole. I feel like from an administrative, a school perspective, things of that nature sometimes, like from pay and things of that nature. And like in middle school, especially middle school, is like, hey, would you like to do this activity for months and we'll give you this stipend of like $800? And, it's, it's,
I think
it's
I think our
something, but
number
it's,
one resource
go
is our
ahead.
students, and I think our number one resource is our students and our former students.
Okay.
I am fortunate that every year at least graduates stay local and are at either University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, or they're at Marquette, or they're at some of the other smaller universities in the Milwaukee area. And they will come back and sometimes they'll just judge. In other years, I've had students come back and coach.
Okay.
This year for the first time, so I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm cautiously optimistic that it'll be fantastic. January 2nd is the first day back for teachers at school. But it is basically a working day for teachers. And I'm going to host a workshop in the morning, a forensics workshop. And I've got 8 or 9 graduates, anywhere from their 1 to 4 years out, coming back to give 45-minute workshops on how to write a good oratory speech, how to pick a good declamation speech, how to, one girl's going to do working on my pops. I'm popping in and out of characters. And then in the afternoon, we're going to do a mock tournament to help the new students get ready for this season. And so I've done the mock tournament in the past, but I've never partnered it with workshops where recent graduates come in and give their information and provide and share their knowledge with the current team. And I'm
Yeah.
really, really excited. I think it'll be a really cool way to stay connected with the Reagan graduates, but also, students, I think, very often learn more from each other than they do from an adult. My team, I have had students tell me I get more out of my coaching sessions with one of our team captains, and I say, and you should, because they're competing. They know more about the nuances of what's happening in the activity right now than me, who is either just judging or very often stuck in a tab room, and not able to judge. So,
That that makes a lot of sense, and I think that that is a very great way to get more people to coach, hopefully, and in general, more people to be like just inspired by the activity that want to help out in some way.
because they know exactly what the benefits are, and
Yeah,
you know the especially the ones who are just a couple years out, and at university, uh, they can come back and ideally help coach, certainly help judge. It keeps them active in the activity, and hopefully long term it's something that they want to stay involved with.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I like that a lot. Um, Hold on, just writing in there. Okay, so um, I'm kind of thinking a little bit about. So we talked about being able to get more students to coach, basically get more students to coach as they eventually get out of high school, they grow up, they realize that this might be something for them, and it honestly, when you're if you're a, I don't know if you're a second year out and you're in college, that speech and debate stipend is real nice. When you're trying to live off of ramen noodles and dorm room stuff. But I I want to see. It's so tough. I'm definitely this is definitely going to be probably a question that might seem a little bit difficult to answer. I always try to have at least one in there, I guess. But um, but I want to see more schools value speech and debate from an educational perspective as well.
Absolutely.
And what I mean by that is like I see all of these beautiful like private schools, especially in California, where literally like the idea of circuit debate and circuit speech is so big and prevalent. But like all of these schools, like Texas is another big state that has it, where like the people or the coaches and the teachers, they're actually teaching speech and debate classes during the day, and then they're also coaching that team and doing all the travel with that team and all that stuff. So like it's it's awesome because for some kids it's literally just an elective. They're coming in, they're learning all this great stuff, and that's awesome. And they might not participate on the team, and that's fine because we've still, I feel like, instilled what we can in them and made them, obviously enjoy speech and debate from just a classroom perspective, and then transitioning that into those who coach too, and bringing those specific kids who may have taken the class. They're also going to the tournaments. They're also competing. I want to see more schools have that. And this is, I feel like this is probably way outside of either of our scopes, but like, how can we make that happen? How can, is, do you think that there's a way or even a chance for more schools to have that type of ideal in their classrooms where, like they can teach a speech and debate class and coach the team, and that's all they do as a teacher?
Well, yeah, that would be a perfect world, or a much closer to perfect world than the one in which we currently live.
Yeah.
I always laugh because um, Wisconsin, many, many years ago, probably even before you graduated, had the Department of Public Instruction had a requirement that all students take a semester speech class. So when
Oh.
I graduated from high school in 1991, so now I'm dating myself, we were required to take a semester speech class. And then
Okay.
sometime in the early 2000s, 2003 or 2004, DPI dropped that, saying, well, it's included in the language arts classes, so it's fine. So when I hear about these other states that have speech and debate classes, I just look at them and like, what is this that you speak of? I have no idea what you're talking about. It's intriguing to me. I would hope that with the approval of an administrative team, one of the requirements for the class would be you have to compete at least, twice a semester, if you are getting credit for the class.
Yeah.
I think that would be one way, because I do really think once kids compete and once they see what it's about, because a lot of people think, who wants to get up early on a Saturday morning and go sit on a bus, and but they love it. Like it's just, yes, it takes a certain type of kid, but there are a lot of those types of humans in the world. And once we suck them in just once or twice, they kind of get hooked, which is really awesome. But you have to have that way of getting them to the first or second tournaments. I know that every year my team members, so for my team, they have to sign up at the beginning of the season for every tournament that they can attend. And I require that they attend a majority of the tournaments. And I compare it to when you try out for the soccer team, you don't get to pick and choose which games you're going to play at. If you are put onto the soccer team, you go to every game. So if you join the forensics team, you go to every tournament.
Okay,
now,
that makes sense.
Because it's Saturdays, I do make some exceptions because, Saturdays things come up and maybe you're going out of town for grandma's birthday and you have to be gone. And so certainly some exceptions come up. But inevitably, the week of the first tournament, half the freshmen or half the new kids will come up to me and say, so I don't think I'm going to compete this week. And I just look at them and say, yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Because once you go and you experience your first tournament, you love 90% of the kids. I maybe lose one after the first tournament. Last year, I didn't lose any. So you just have to force them to get past that initial fear. And, I just look at them and say, it's all going to be okay. You're going to be nervous, and that's fine because your body will take those nerves and use them to help you perform better. And that's okay because that's what you want to happen. But yeah, at the end of the day, if they tell me they don't want to, my final response is, suck it up, Buttercup, you're going.
I like that. That is very, very true. I am very, very, very thankful that I was able to get you on and have you on this podcast and be able to ask you some of these questions. I think that hopefully these are the questions that some new coaches who are listening and some students and alumni, I'm hoping that these are some of the questions that they need to hear. And hopefully these answers were able to suffice that. Once again, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been a true honor.
Sure.
And for everybody else listening, make sure that you give this, all the 5 stars, thumbs up on like Stitcher and iTunes and all the places where podcasts are. I would really appreciate it to help with the whole algorithm of, I don't know, being a great podcast and stuff like that. Thank you. And keep listening, keep liking, get in the conversation with me. Feel free to DM me, Instagram, anywhere. Let's have the conversation. Speech and debate forever. Loving it. And I will talk to you all later. You have a great day and peace out.